Mrs. Ajoke?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Goody. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. It's good to see you.
Nice to see you too. What about our host?
How? I'm the host now.
I'm sorry. The speaker.
I'm sure that he will join us soon.
Did you get to write him?
We chatted on WhatsApp.
Okay.
We chatted on WhatsApp about 2 days ago. Yes, we chatted on WhatsApp 2 days ago. I would anyway, it's still early, so we're expecting him to join us pretty soon.
Okay. No wahala.
Welcome. Ayomide, hi, how are you? Thank you. I can see like two new people.
Good evening, Solanka. Good evening. Can you hear me? Hello.
Your network is breaking.
Oh, I thought it was even from my side. Chukudi, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. How are you doing,
How
sir?
are you now? How's that side?
Yes.
I'm okay.
Your cheeks just pumping and pumping and pumping.
Pumping, okay. I think our host is here, right?
Our guest.
Yeah, our guest. I'm sorry.
Host.
I keep saying our
You are
host.
the host.
Anyway.
I hope you guys don't mind. I need to put up my camera because my network is
still breaking.
You are still breaking.
Okay, you're breaking.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but you're still breaking, but it's fine.
Okay. Hi, hello everyone. Am I breaking still? Hello everyone. Am I breaking still?
No, it's fine. It's okay.
Okay, Chukwudi, you know what? Can you just take over from me while I try to get my modem?
Okay. Just
yes.
Hang on.
Yes, just introduce our guest. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you.
I don't know why this thing happens, like, and my internet has been perfect today. Chukwudi, can you hear me?
Yes, Joker, I can hear you.
Okay. Please, Chukwudi, can you just take over for me while I try to get a better internet so I can join with my video?
Okay, good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, my name is 𝙒𝙬𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤, and I'm one of the project coordinators at Clan Initiative. And our guest for today is Dr. 𝙂𝙧𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤, and He's a very good friend of mine, and currently he's a junior program associate with Corona Management System and a passionate public health advocate. He has committed decade of experience to improving health outcome, especially in underserved communities. His journey began with the Nigeria Red Cross Society, where he developed the skills in disaster response, infection protection, and public health program implementation. Over the years, he has played a key role in outbreak responses to diseases like COVID-19, cholera, Lassa fever, and coordinating life-saving interventions. In his current role as the Corona Management System, he contributes to the program management, implementation, and supporting various public health projects. He has also worked in improving health outcome in underserved areas, particularly in maternal health and particularly in areas of maternal and child health, epidemic control, and non-communicable diseases. Previously, he has also served as a medical officer at the Amy Primary Healthcare Center, overseeing clinical operations and managing health assessment. He's also privileged to be the founder of Blast Initiative for Health Education, where medical outreach are conducted, which are aimed at addressing critical health gaps in rural communities. His professional achievements include serving as a national disaster response and also a WHO primary healthcare youth leader, and has received numerous awards such as the National Polio Pulse Award from the Rotary International. He's also a fellow of Paul Harris, and which underscores commitment to global health and disease prevention. Driven by his passion for community-based solutions, he has driven by the community-based health solutions, he has leveraged his expertise in public health leadership to advocate for evidence-based policies, which have been prioritized in prevention of diseases and equity in healthcare. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. 𝙂𝙧𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤 as the host of today, where he will be talking on promoting green solutions for water conservation and hygiene. Hello, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. Is it time for me to talk?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. I think I'm the guest. I'm not the host.
I'm sorry for mixing it up.
I'm sorry. I won't be turning on my camera because I'm currently in a rural community for a field work. So I don't actually have power around here. So it's a bit dark. And I will sincerely apologize that I'm not going to be sharing any PowerPoint in our discussion this evening as it is in Nigeria. So it's going to be a conversation, and we are going to discuss about something which is very interesting to me, and I believe that everyone who is joining this discussion is as well interesting to us. So talking about integrating water sanitation and hygiene practices into sustainable environmental management as a way of promoting green solutions for water conservation and hygiene. This is something that I believe that is going to be in line with the core values of the initiative. And I believe that whatever discussion we're going to have this evening is going to be productive in as much as we have young and vibrant people who are making sure in different areas for us to promote, green ecology, making sure that we create a sustainable healthcare through green ecology. So that is the reason why we are having this discourse this particular moment. So just a little form of an introduction and an overview on this particular discourse. this particular discourse on integration of water, sanitation, and hygiene practices into sustainable environmental management, it's something that I feel is essential for promoting health and safeguarding the environment. So by doing this, is a way of we moving away from the traditional way which we actually use in managing such practices. For most of us in underserved communities, or maybe coming from where most of us, I believe that most of the people on this call are from Nigeria or from West Africa. So you find that we have seen ourselves, or maybe we've lived part of our life in this part of the world where, when we talk about water, sanitation, and hygiene, we talk about the traditional means of doing most of these things. Take, for instance, what we talk about most times about hygiene is for you to talk about hand hygiene, proper hand wash. Sometimes when we talk about water, if it is not about we getting the rainwater, we should be talking about the pipe-borne water, which after some time, it became something that we can access almost everywhere. And now we do not care much in the past on how we are able to get these things, which makes it problematic, So we need smarter ways to make these things innovative. We need smarter ways whereby we can actually achieve all these processes in an environmental friendly manner. That means that's why our discussion today about integrating this to a sustainable environmental management is something that is very key and very important to us. So now, these wash practices, like I said, traditionally focuses on these, improving water access, talking about sanitation infrastructures, and some of those hygiene behaviors, which I mentioned earlier. So now we are trying to look at ways by which we can actually align with, green solutions to support water conservation and sustainable resource management, which is very key. So this approach is not only going to enhance, public health outcomes, but we need to understand that it will also promote environmental sustainability in communities. So a vast majority of us are well, we know very well about the traditional means, but I feel that this discussion this evening is going to be one that is going to direct our mindset on how we can use innovative means to better, maybe chart a better outcome in our immediate society, in our communities, in our climate, which is why it is very important. So first off, we are looking at how these, approaches will help us, in areas affected by water scarcity or pollution. Because if we are talking about green ecology and we are not talking about how to curb or how to reduce pollution, we've not started. So if we actually, we want to talk about wash practices in a way that is going to be eco-friendly, that means we should be talking about how whatever thing we do in water, sanitation, and hygiene is actually going to reduce the level of pollution that exists in some communities or in vast majority of communities, and how we can actually solve the problem of, water scarcity is very important. So now we need to understand that the future of WASH, that's water, sanitation, and hygiene, entails a combination of, difficulties and unparalleled prospects. So what that means is that, there are a lot of things that we can do. So most times, as someone who loves research and someone who loves field work in the field in the space of public health, I have actually carried out a lot of research work, and as well I've been to many communities carrying out WASH activities through some organizations that I work for. So currently, in the past 3 years, I've been working in some communities in Imo State, Nigeria. So through the help of British Red Cross. So in most of the activities we do in these communities, we find that most importantly, what the problem we are having is not that there is no water, but people need to access clean water. So you find that this is an urgent difficulty that needs to be solved. So when we get to the community, a community that always there is flooding, a community where you see water bodies everywhere, but they do not have access to clean water to drink, it becomes a major challenge for us to solve. So, and now we should have better prospects on how to do these things in order to make people get what they need and as well maintain our ecology or our ecosystem rather. So in that regard, that is why we say in the pursuit of achieving this universal access to clean water and sanitation, we need to ensure as well that we promote sanitary practices. We need to, carry out, innovative practices that is going to be very much crucial for us to, achieve a sustainable advancement within the, societies or maybe our immediate communities. So I believe that this discussion we're having is one which we are going to try as much as possible to implement in our immediate society, in our immediate communities. So for instance, someone like me in Nigeria, I believe that it is an opportunity for me to start thinking about how to diversify most of the activities I do with organizations, rather not to just do the traditional thing of talking about water sanitation and hygiene, where I need to keep teaching people on importance of hand hygiene, providing maybe say aqua taps or some water purification materials, or maybe Veronica bucket for people to have access to water to wash their hands, sort of. So these are basic things that we're already doing. I'm not trying to say that we've done enough, but what I'm trying to say is that we need to ensure that we add up systems that will be eco-friendly, systems that while we are achieving these great practices in WASH, we are still making sure that we protect our ecosystem. We are still making sure that we go green. So what all these things entails is for us to promote green solutions while we are still, making sure that we conserve water and we promote hygiene. So as regards to this, I believe that it's very important that we understand what all these things entails, the importance of this innovation in water, the importance of this innovation in sanitation, the importance of this innovation in hygiene as well. So I've been able to use this brief overview to tell us a little about the importance of, sustainable environmental management, because in regarding to WASH, because most of these things I mentioned earlier, talking about, water scarcity or pollution, are things that we need to be thinking of how to solve these problems. Take, for instance, that we have a pipe of water that, every now and then water is being pumped and we use generating sets, and these generators, produces some carbon monoxide, which affects people who are living within an enclosed space. I don't know if we have anybody who grew up in Aba here. So I happen to have done my high school in Aba. That was one of the worst moments of my life. I think that was the moment when I met Chukwudi. We actually finished from the same high school. So I spent 6 years in Aba. It was a moment when I couldn't actually fix some of the things that I was exposed to. When you get to some streets, some families, how things are being done, and these are things done in a way that people don't really care about it. People don't care about their health. People don't care about environmental sanitation. People don't care about keeping things together. So I felt that that was a problem. But I believe today that shouldn't be the same thing for Aba, so to say. So if you grew up in Aba, apologies. So I'm not trying to say that it's still the same thing, but I'm trying to say what I met when I was there, which was not okay. So looking at all those things, you find that if we have communities, if we have our immediate space still like that, we need to find solutions, better solutions to solve such pollution, because it is a problem, it's an immediate problem. So taking it back to water conservation and talking about efficient use of water. So for instance, what took me to that particular discourse is that some places where we fetch water at that point, you find out that they pump water often, to the extent that most of the streets doesn't have gutters around there. It becomes difficult for this water, like overflowing of this water to be channeled appropriately. So it means that the streets most times is going to be waterlogged, and you see it harboring some, parasites like mosquito and all of that. Before you know what is happening, before you say Jack, in the evenings, there are mosquitoes everywhere. People are, falling ill, and a lot of things are happening. So it means that we are living in a society where people do not really care much about their health, and they don't really know where all these things are coming from. And when you look down the street, you see patent drug dealers that are being patronized on a regular basis. So you can imagine how lucrative such business is going to be. People go there, buy drugs, and they come back facing the same poor sanitary environment, and they will still fall ill and keep patronizing these people. So that is not what we are talking about. So we need solutions that can actually be long-lasting, and that's why we are talking about how this environmental sustainability is going to be in vast majority of these communities. So on the area of water conservation, we are saying that this is one of the key elements of integrating WASH with sustainable management, and we can actually achieve this by promoting efficient use of water. Communities can actually reduce wastage and preserve this vital resource. So most times you find that people already leave their pumping machine, like their Sumo, on. So immediately the national grid comes up, it start pumping whether there is anybody around or not. So what that means is that the tanks are going to be filled up, is going to be overflowing before anyone gets to notice that, okay, the pumping machine is left on. That is a problem. So we do not care what happens to the environment when we allow these things to happen. I'm trying to, bring up some, illustrations that some of us can actually relate with. I mean, for people who grew up in Nigeria anyway. So you get to understand that these things are problematic. So water conservation is a thing. So for us to have this level of preservation of water, we need to, devise means of promoting efficient use of water and regulating how we try to get this water on board. So we can think about something that can be innovative. I think this is applicable in vast majority of places in Nigeria currently, where water is not just pumped with the national grid electricity. Most of the boreholes are being connected to solar system. Like where I work currently, the water we use is connected to the solar system. So since you know that for the fact that the solar works always, you may not have that pressure, you may not have that need to leave your pumping machine on, because you want, whenever the power, grid, national grid comes up, you get your water pumped, especially in a place like Nigeria where we have power, outage always. So that is a problem, and this is one of the solutions that we can bring up, which is eco-friendly, which promotes, green is more like a green solution. So secondly, on this, we need to actually look at this from this other area, not just about trying to talk about water conservation. Do we actually talk about, how we can actually harvest the rainwater in most places, in vast majority of places where they may not be able to have access to, pipe bore water? How do they actually try to harvest, rainwater? I could remember growing up, whenever I visit my village, then they used to have these cemented tank that they have a way of channeling a structure to the tank, so that the whole rainfall within the period of rainy season gets to be stored in that particular place. So it's a way of promoting some level of water recycling. And we believe that when we have better technologies that apply to these places, it can promote green solution. So in that regard, that helps conserve water while maintaining essential water sanitation and hygiene services. So these are things that we can actually think of to make sure that we create some level of sustainable environmental management system in our immediate community. So like I'm saying this, first off, I think I need to share this part of my story. As a medical doctor, I delved into what's it called, clinical practice. And I felt like it's not something that I should give all my time at the moment, because I saw medical practice, clinical practice at the level of the tertiary facilities. I was able to move to the primary facilities. So I've seen things at different levels, how immediate communities at the community level they fare. So I thought it's a big problem, it's a big challenge, that just sitting in my clinic and seeing people who comes around my clinic cannot actually solve the problem all. So that was why I started looking at, healthcare at the population level. So what can we do to help, profile solutions? How can we reach out to a wide range of people so that people get to understand what they should do? So that is why we say that public health programs can also include, educational campaigns to encourage the adoption of, water-saving practices, ensuring that every drop counts. We need not waste this water. For some of us that must have been in some societies, like I can remember when I was in Cape Town, water is very expensive there. So I was wondering, why should I, pay a lot to actually get water? Now, people started explaining how difficult it is for them to access water. So you find out that if people at some places pay a lot to get water, and we are blessed, I mean, for some of us who are in Nigeria, we are blessed that we have access to this water. Now, we now cause more problems for ourselves because we are unable to, efficiently conserve this water. So that's the problem, that through provision of, some level of green solutions, like as I've mentioned few, we can know how to, regulate this, and as well profile some level of solutions. Now, there are some other examples I wouldn't want to mention. Maybe we can think about those things later, and it can form the bulk of some projects that some, organizations can take up to handle. So take, for instance, charting a course around, the low flow taps, and talking about, devising some toilet systems that is going to actually conserve water and not like taking up a lot of water for you to flush when you actually use the lavatories and things like that. So these are things that we can actually look at, and they are going to be, form of, green solutions for water conservation and hygiene as well. So going further, I would like to talk about sustainable sanitation system and how these things work. I don't know if everyone can still hear me at this point.
Yeah, we can.
All right. So talking about,
Yes,
sustainable.
we can hear you.
All right. Thank you very much. So talking about sustainable sanitation system, this is a way for us to support, sustainable environmental management, just like I mentioned earlier. So water sanitation and hygiene, programs should incorporate environmentally friendly sanitation solutions. This is very important. For the last illustration I used when I was talking about toilet systems, traditional sanitation systems like, flush toilets can be water intensive. This is something that all of us can agree to. I don't really know how it is in UK. I think I've never been to UK before. So I don't really know how it is in some countries, but vast majority of countries that I've been to, it is just almost the same in most of those places. So this is something that we can think of how to make it, a bit environmentally friendly by trying to know how we can actually conserve this. This can be, maybe through some, green solutions. Let's take, for instance, if the systems are being designed in a way, I'm just trying to sell idea now. So if the systems are being designed in a way that maybe lesser water is being used, and there are some other, other solutions that can be used for disinfecting, so that the much water which was needed initially for you to flush, because you are flushing the feces, and you are as well trying to keep some level of hygiene and also for protection. So if there are some other solutions that can be used, which is not going to be problematic to health, and lesser water in addition to this, you find out that you are trying to conserve. So this is just at the basic level, but I believe that if some of these technologies are being taken up, if some of these innovations are taken up, these are things that we can actually, find a way to migrate to better solutions. So we need to understand that eco-friendly alternatives like, the composting toilets can still work, because most times that these things can actually serve as biogas, So when we have biogas digesters that can actually use some of these things, it can still, contribute to electricity, and it can be used in running some, factories and stuff like that. So we can even decide to, have some level of a constructed wetlands, which we can actually use for recycling waste. We can have some level of water conservation, and by so doing, we reduce some level of pollution in the surrounding. These are just like ideas I was able to think about, but I know that there are a lot of them that maybe people who are interested in this area can actually come together, think about them, and come up with a lot of things. So these systems can also, produce some byproducts like biogas, like I mentioned earlier, or organic fertilizers that can be used for some arable crops that are available in most of these communities. So you can imagine how people always go for the mechanized fertilizers for their farms, but these are things that we can actually work on, and it can still be processed in a way that they can be used in our farms, and it can help us to produce crops. So I believe that will actually help, contributing to, local energy needs, and as well as, like I said, crops in terms of agricultural productivity. So that is it about, I think, sustainable sanitation systems. Now, I would like us to take this discourse a bit further. We've been able to talk about water conservation. We've been able to talk about sustainable sanitation systems. I would like us to talk about promoting hygiene with green technologies. Hygiene promotion is something that is very key. So I feel in my practice and in most of the projects I've handled in Nigeria about, water sanitation and hygiene, during the last cholera outbreak, which the epicenter was actually in Lagos. So I was deployed to Lagos. I was able to visit about 4 communities that were directly affected. One of them was in 𝙎𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤. So I didn't grow up in Lagos, but it was an opportunity for me to see how life was in 𝙎𝙤𝙤𝙤, where you get to cross water to get to some communities, and you see how life is actually in those places. You find out that one of the difficult things that we face in WASH is about promoting hygiene. So if we're able to promote hygiene appropriately, you find that some other problems can actually be, minor, like when we talk about water conservation, sometimes, because of the fact that people do not actually have power to pump water often, you find out that even people lack water. So talking about water wastage may not really be a major issue in a country like Nigeria. Talking about, sustainable sanitation system, most times people try to improvise. That's one thing I love about our people. We always try to improvise to conserve. So, but now the major challenge we face most times is promoting hygiene. And I believe that this is something we can actually achieve by ensuring proper, hygiene practices, by applying green technologies. So hygiene practices should not just be limited to just hand washing, because we know that this remains a core component of WASH initiative. We cannot rule this out. Hand hygiene is very, very paramount. And I know that is the reason why World Health Organization always talk about hand hygiene whenever we have outbreaks, even during the COVID-19 pandemic. That was one of the major things that everyone was talking about, to the extent that we tell people, okay, start using alcohol-based hand sanitizer when you do not have access to water, running water and soap. So in all those things, we try to make people understand how important it is for us to promote hand hygiene. However, we need to understand that integrating green technologies in hygiene promotion is key to reducing, environmental impact. For instance, we talk about solar-powered water heaters. I don't know if any of us must have thought about this, how it can provide hot water for washing hands in off-grid communities. So in situations whereby I said earlier that, okay, I'm currently in a community where we do not almost always don't have light. And it is a problem. So whenever I'm around here, it's always that, okay, I get to burn fuel because my facility over here is not powered by solar, which I think I've been able to chart that course, and they're working on that. But at the moment, it becomes very difficult for me to get some of the things I need sorted out because there is always this issue with power. So you can imagine in a place like this, whereby we say, okay, we want to improve hand wash, and want to create a system where water will always be there, and maybe because of some of the waste that comes from the hospital or from the center where you work, you need to use maybe, let's say, warm water to wash your hand. That means we are waiting for power to come back for you to boil water, or maybe for you to have a system that can allow you get hot water. And when it is not available, that means we need to burn, what's it called, firewood or something like that for you to get this sorted out. So at the long run, you find that this is still like a means of encouraging deforestation, and you are not being eco-friendly. We can actually get some of these things, so it becomes problematic. But when we try to, seek solutions, trying to, migrate to maybe say solar-powered, water heater or water provision, like as I mentioned earlier, this goes a long way, reducing, reliance on non-renewable energy sources, like I said, firewood, gases, and all of that. Sometimes I had this discussion. Oh, I think I need to leave this for now. This call is on record. All right. So it's very important that we do things we can to make sure that we protect our ecosystem. So additionally, using environmentally friendly cleaning products for sanitation and hygiene can limit the introduction of harmful chemicals into the water system. That is very important that we note, and protecting both human health and the ecosystem. So all these things are things we are doing, to advance the cause of public health. And we cannot be talking about better health without talking about how we make the environment where we are friendly. And that is what we talk about in ecosystem, and promoting ecosystem and making it, a place that is going to be good for us. We always keep talking about how, the whole thing is getting bad every day. We talk about how the ozone layer is being depleted because of the burning of fossil fuel and fluorocarbons, how the Niger Delta area in Nigeria is being suffering, has been suffering as a result of this cause. Now, we need to still understand that things cannot just change, and things cannot just get better without us taking these little steps that can actually make the society get better. So I want to take us to a few other points before I summarize, because I don't want to make this discussion so boring in a way that we feel bored with the whole discussion. But I want it to be like more like a reawakening one, that we try thinking of how we can actually chart a course, try to take up projects that will better our society, making us people who are eco-friendly, promoting our ecosystem, making sure that we go green in everything we do, and most importantly for our discourse today, things that has to do with water, sanitation, and hygiene. So another point I would like us to look at is protecting water sources and our ecosystems. Most times we do not really talk much about our natural water sources these days, especially the place where I work. I'm talking about Nigeria, because I know that, some of us may not actually be in Nigeria at the moment. But if you're in Nigeria, you find that most of our water, our natural water sources are being contaminated. So how many rivers in most of the states are still functional? How many streams do people still go to access clean water? It becomes difficult because most of the things we do around those areas entails or maybe go a long way contaminating this water. It becomes very much of a concern to someone like me in public health. So this can involve, how we can actually create some level of, sustainable wash practices around this area, can involve, integrating waste management systems that prevent the discharge of untreated sewage into rivers, lakes, and, groundwater. And this is something that we see a vast majority of facilities in Nigeria do. Most of them try to channel their waste inside the river. And these things are problematic because we don't think about the aftermath effect of this at the long run. That is why we see people doing those things. So I believe that these are things that we can actually look at. Like I said earlier at the introductory part, we may not actually be able to do enough, but through advocacy, through some level of campaign, we can sensitize people. Because one thing I've noticed around West Africa is that when people are unaware of what they actually should go for, that ignorance makes them live in a state of thinking that they don't actually need those things. But when they are being directed and made to know the importance of some of those things, it goes a long way, triggering their it gives them some level of reawakening spirit for them to go for what rightfully belongs to them, so to say, like in our language. So people actually go to fight for what is theirs. So we should not spoil what should be yours. So there's something we say in Igbo, say onye mebi ụwa ya akwa ya ụgwọ. When you destroy this word that is sweet like this, you got to pay for it, something like that. So that's actually on a lighter note. So we try to make people understand that they need to, you need to make it your work. It's everybody's work. It is not something that is left for the government alone. Everybody needs to, get in, chart this course, make sure that we make the society a better place. So, reforestation should be a thing. There should be some level of reforestation efforts around water catchment areas. This goes a long way to enhance the ecosystem's ability to naturally filter water. This is something that people fail to understand. And when those things are being done, it goes a long way, improving water quality while maintaining the biodiversity. It's very important. So this is something that most of the people in the area of environmental health can actually take up and chart the cost for us to have ecosystems that are, human friendly. So again, there is something that is very important, and that is the best place for us to start. I got to learn a lot of things while working with Nigerian Red Cross Society, and I would love to share some of these things with us. One of the things that we brag with in Nigerian Red Cross Society, working with them, was that we have this level of community-based volunteers, and we always want to champion that community engagement, where we make the communities take charge of activities that are being done in their communities. And I believe that this is what vast majority of organizations should be doing. And in Corona Management System, where I work currently, this is something that we actually promote as well. So, while we contribute to health system strengthening, we want to make people take responsibility, because this is your community, this is your state. You need to take that lead while we support you to get things done. So community engagement and policy advocacy is something that is very key for us to be able to achieve most of these things that we are discussing this evening. So successful integration of WASH and environmental management depends on active community participation. So if the community members are unable, to key into this particular process, it becomes difficult for us to achieve it. So take, for instance, the instance I gave concerning Aba, for instance. If the people living in Aba fail to, take it as something that they need to do to make sure that the city gets better, it is not going to get better. And that is why I'm happy with what the current governor is doing around there. The last time I visited Aba, everywhere was just shining, there are good roads and streets are being tarred, and a lot of wonderful work is going on there. So this is me trying to, not get any question concerning what is happening in Aba for people who love that city. So I'm trying to tell you that things have changed for good currently. All right, that's on a lighter note. So we need to understand that, we need to engage local communities, and there should be strong policy advocacy, a very strong policy advocacy coming from both the community people, from everyone, not just about what the government can do. So everyone needs to get in. We need to make it everybody's business. We need to engage local communities in green water, sanitation, and hygiene practices through awareness campaigns, through training, through capacity building. Because one thing this thing does is that it fosters this level of ownership and encourages them to, adopt these sustainable behaviors. And when people make it their own and they adopt the behavior, it goes a long way becoming their thing. So most of us, when we travel outside Nigeria, we have this reawakening spirit for us to do things the right way, right? But when we come back to Nigeria, it looks like our brains goes back to the factory setting default. We start doing things the other way around. But when we are in countries, when we are in climes where things are arranged, organized, we try to do things like that. So what stops us from doing the right thing when we are in our country to make sure that things get better? We maintain those good things that we must have learned abroad. So those things are things that we really need to encourage to make sure that things get better in our community. So at the policy level, we need to understand that governments and stakeholders must create and enforce regulations that promote green sanitation infrastructure, water conservation, and hygiene practices while protecting the environment, because it's really key and very important. So I would like us to still look at another point before we summarize: building climate resilient water sanitation and hygiene systems. Climate change exacerbates water scarcity and environmental degradation. And this goes a long way, posing some challenges for wash services that we have. So if this thing is something that we look at, if it is something that we prioritize, we find that integrating climate resilient technologies such as, for the people there at the up north, talking about drought resistant water sources, talking about, for people down the south, especially I'm using Nigeria as a case study now, down the south, about flood resistant sanitation systems. All these things are critical to sustaining access to clean water and sanitation in the face of climate variability. So for people up north, so if we have systems that can actually make sure that water is available even during drought, and also we make available systems that can actually regulate flooding down the south when we are in rainy season or when the water is much, these things goes a long way making our systems better. So we think that building that climate resilient wash system is very key. So NIMET this year in Nigeria tried to make people understand that there are some states of the federation where they are going to have a lot of water. So what are we doing as environmental health practitioners? What are we saying? How are we coming in to make sure that people, that disaster risk reduction, that early warning systems, what are we doing about those things? So these things are very important for us to integrate in our advocacy, in our campaigns, to make sure that the society gets better. So additionally, we need to understand that WASH programs can support communities in developing emergency preparedness plans that account for climate-induced disruption. So organizations can come in, like currently my organization in CMS, we help in drafting some of these preparedness plans for communities through the state governments where we are working. So it goes a long way making them to understand that, okay, if you are not prepared, you won't be able to mitigate. That's the truth. So people need to understand how these things work so that they'll be ready and know what to do when the problems comes. So because of our time, I think we have already spent like 50 minutes, and I would like us to summarize within 1 hour. So in conclusion, I feel that integrating WASH practices into sustainable environmental management is a key strategy for promoting both public health and ecological sustainability. Is very important. And by adopting green solutions for water conservation, talk about sanitation and hygiene, communities can reduce their environmental footprints while improving health outcomes. Very, very key. So to everyone listening to me this moment, if it is morning, afternoon, or night, from wherever part of the world where you are listening to, I'm saying that this is a cause for us to take up. It is very important that we chart solutions that will be sustainable in our immediate communities by making sure that we put up integrations that requires collaborative approach where everybody can come together, involving community members, policymakers, talking about environmental organizations, to create that resilient systems that safeguard both human well-being and the planet's resources at large. So I would like to be stopping here. Thank you very much for inviting me to take up this discourse with us this moment, and I'll be willing to take questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. 𝙀𝙧𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤. I really appreciate you. I've learned a lot, and I also hope most of us here have also learned a lot. Clean water and sanitation has really been a thing of concern. I think in the MDG it was goal 7, and the SDG is now incorporated in goal 6. But I know most community, with Nigeria being the case study, most community are still lagging behind. But I pray NGOs like us and government in partnership can improve wash practices. So if there are any questions, this is the best time to ask Dr. 𝙾𝙧𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤. Okay, Adejoke.
Hello, Dr. 𝙂𝙧𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤. Thank you for joining us today. My question is around reforestation. You talk about reforestation around water causes. I didn't actually know that was a thing before joining, this meeting today. I'm very glad that you brought it up. And you also talked about creating ecosystems that are human friendly. Can you give us, and you mentioned that, environmental activists should do more of that. I would like to know how we can do more creating ecosystems that are more human friendly. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I feel like, delving a bit to things that should be done at the consultancy level. Maybe when you consult me, I can actually do this, but that's on a lighter note anyway. So talking about, when I mentioned that it's very important that we create a system that is going to be eco-friendly in the area of reforestation, I was very clear about that. Something that is very important for us to pick up there is that we say reforestation efforts around water catchment areas is something that is a thing. And why is a thing is because it has a way of naturally filtering the water. So the process, the mechanism is something that is broad. It's not something I can actually use the few minutes that we have in this particular call to explain. But the thing there is that it has a way that it has the ability to naturally filter water, and that by extension improve the water quality. And while we are doing this, two things are being achieved at the same time. You find that the water bodies and the trees as well are two different components that we actually need, right? So it goes away to help us. It goes along a long way, helping us to maintain that biodiversity that is needed from these both ends. So at the long run, we have clean water, and we as well have afforestation, thereby, people who stay around those areas, they have access to air, and as well have access to clean water. I don't know if that helps in a way. Now, secondly, when you are talking about how can some organizations chart the cost around this, so it's more like if it is going to be a campaign, if it's going to be an advocacy stuff, if it is going to be a policy, a policy promotion around that area, you need to, study around it, understand how these things work, and you encourage people to do it. So in as much as we think that water bodies are important to us and people try to clear trees around the water bodies, that's not the best thing to do, especially when the water that is being accessed in those areas can be used for drinking, except when people don't drink it. And secondly, even when people don't drink it, there is something we said which we should still advocate for. We should not channel waste into these streams, into these rivers, even when we don't use them as our drinking water. So it goes a long way when we promote, that biodiversity, and as well as, getting clean water from those natural sources. We may not really have need to start going into all those mechanized ways which contribute, some level of pollution to our ecosystem. So that is what I'm talking about. I don't know. That may be brief, but I believe this helps.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your answer. That, helps.
Okay. Dr. 𝙾𝙧𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤, I'm talking about polluting our water bodies. When I did my national service in Cross River, I worked with family health, and we got to know that open defecation is a very big problem. Some communities actually prefer defecating in open spaces, and not just, they don't contaminate just the water bodies, it also affects their health. So I'm asking, what ways can this be reduced, especially in these rural communities?
All right, thank you very much for that question. There was a particular point I raised. I think that was my fifth point, where I was talking about community engagement and policy advocacy. I have seen firsthand as a project manager. So, when I was in class and we were learning project management, people keep saying, okay, you need to do needs assessment before you do a particular thing for the community. I didn't get it until when you go to the field yourself, you build a particular structure for people and they don't use it, or maybe they destroy it, then you get to understand the need for needs assessment before you get to the community to do a particular thing. So that's where community engagement, community members getting involved in whatever thing you want to do. So first off, if you are in a community, so there should be chatting of this discourse at various levels. There is something we do. When you get to the community and you want to cope or you want to reduce such pollution, the first thing we do is to do needs assessment. We know, okay, people don't like that their environment is being polluted, but they like doing this. So can there be some options? And this option, you may not get it maybe through general town hall meeting. It may be something you need to get through focus group discussion. It may be something you get when you actually, get different groups of people. So in a particular community in Nigeria, let me give you this instance. They don't have water, and the people trek a long distance before they access water. So a particular organization came around and decided to, drill a pipe-borne water for them, and thinking that they did something nice for them. I think it was even connected to solar so that they can actually be getting water easily. You know what happened? The men in that community went and vandalized, they destroyed everything. So
Wow.
the organization was wondering, why would these people do this? See, people we are trying to help, they trek a long distance to fetch water, and they are destroying what we've set up for them. So what must be the cause of this? So that was now when it occurred to them to go back for needs assessment. Do you know what happened? So when they went back there, they said when their kids move that far distance to go fetch water, that is the moment when they relax with their wives. So that is the only time that they have to do such a thing. So a vast majority of them live in one-room apartment with their kids, numerous kids. So that is the only time when all the kids will leave the house. And some of the women said, okay, even when their husbands are not around, that is the only time when they have to, gossip around with their fellow women. So you see the point here now. So you thinking that you are solving a problem for them, to them, you are creating more problems. So you are not allowing them that luxury of time to enjoy. Are you getting the point? So what I'm trying to say, in essence, is that community engagement is very key. So we need to engage these communities and make them take action by themselves. So most times when people actually accept a particular thing, they will want to protect it because it is their thing. But as an organization, don't come in to do this for them thinking that it will solve the problem. No, try to know what their problem is and try to know other options they have to solve that problem. The community, I tell you, as a field worker, this is my experience, the community will give you the best solution that you need to use to solve their problem. Not something that we can stay here and discuss and say, oh, do this for them, do that for them. The community will tell you what best works for them. And you can now take up that and implement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that's where community engagement comes in, not just developing an intervention. We should also engage the people to know what works best for them. It was really an interesting one. I've really learned a lot, So, and we hope to get you on some other time to come and give us this type of information. I really appreciate, and I hope everyone else also learns one or two things. Okay, we have, this is 5:01. Okay, 6:01 in Nigeria, and I think we have come to the end of this webinar series. And thank you, Dr. 𝙂𝙧𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤, and thank you for everyone that have made that time to attend. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for your knowledge. We really appreciate having you here today.